I've almost had the Sony FX3 for almost a year now. I sold my a7S III to get the FX3, believe it or not. But now that I've had it for almost a year, I wanted to give you an update of what I thought of the FX3 and why I think it's overrated. The reason why I got the FX3 is because I wanted an a7S III, but in a more cinema video production camera. I didn't really want the FX6, but I thought the FX3 was the perfect size for someone like me. And I'll be honest, it took a while to get used to with all the different buttons, and I miss having the dial mode on top of the camera. Like, I love that on the a7S III. And the joystick is on top of the FX3 body, and I much prefer having the joystick behind the camera. And I did get used to the button layout and the menu system of the FX3, which is funny because the newer Sony cameras have the same exact tile menu system as the FX3. But as a solo content creator, I kind of think the FX3 is a bit overkill. Like, it's perfect for professional video production work, like music videos and client work, but for a hybrid camera, I feel like the a7S III was a better hybrid camera to shoot videos and photos, especially for solo creators. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the FX3 is a fantastic camera. I just don't think it's a true hybrid camera like the a7S III. With the a7S III, you have the EVF, you have the mode dial. Like, you can use that camera for photography and for video. With the FX3, that's geared more towards professional video production work, but at the same time, I wouldn't really call the FX3 a cinema camera because it is lacking some features that a lot of cinema cameras have, like internal ND and global shutter. And if I'm paying $4 grand for a mini cinema camera, like, I kind of want to have those things in a cinema camera. And so if you have an a7S III and you're wondering about getting an FX3, just think about what you want to use the camera for. Like, if you want to use it for more professional video production work, then yeah, sure, get the FX3. But if you're more of a hybrid shooter, you do video and photos, maybe a little bit more video, then I would say keep your a7S III. It's a great camera and a little bit cheaper than the FX3. Now, when the FX3 arrived, I was super happy, incredibly stoked to use it, but then a few months later, the Sony ZV-E1 came out, and I was like, it's a baby version of the FX3, and it has AI features? If I'm honest, if I would have known about the ZV-E1, I probably wouldn't have gotten the FX3 and would have gotten the ZV-E1. First of all, it's half the price of the FX3, uses the same exact sensor as the a7S III, same amazing low light capabilities, same 12 megapixel photos. It's smaller than the FX3, fits better in any camera bag. It's a full frame camera, so you can use any E-mount lens, uses the same Sony Z batteries, and really is a more simplified version of the FX3.
It's a little windy today. All right, let's talk about stabilization real quick on the ZV-E1 because I think that's a huge advantage that the ZV-E1 has over the FX3. Now, both cameras have active stabilization, which is really good in-body camera stabilization, but the ZV-E1 has dynamic active mode stabilization. And basically, the camera will crop in a little bit more than active mode stabilization, but with that, you'll have incredibly steady footage as if you are shooting on a gimbal. Let me show you how it works. All right, so now I'm filming with the ZV-E1. I don't have stabilization turned on, and I'm just gonna walk, and you're gonna see how shaky the footage is. And I'm just kind of walking normally. Heel toe, heel toe, heel toe. Right now I have standard stabilization turned on, and it's pretty good for the most part. You'll definitely see some shakiness as I take each step, but definitely better than having stabilization turned off. Right now I have active mode stabilization, and as you can see, the image is cropped in just a little bit, but the footage is a lot steadier. Ooh, nice. And now I have dynamic active mode stabilization turned on. The image is cropped in a little bit more, but as you can see, the footage looks so smooth. Now, there's nothing wrong with just using standard or active mode stabilization. Those options are fine if you do want steady footage. It's just that the ZV-E1 has that much more of an advantage by having dynamic active mode stabilization. Now, other than dynamic mode active stabilization, the ZV-E1 has some pretty cool AI features, which gives it a huge advantage over the FX3. You have a framing stabilizer, where basically the camera will keep you in the center or off to the side, depending on what you want, and will keep you in that position if your camera is on a tripod or if someone is holding it. It's it's pretty cool because I could just give the ZV-1 to a stranger, and if they have like really shaky hands or don't know how to film, they can just point the camera in the general direction of where I'm at and I will be in the center. Probably my, whoa, windy. Ooh, it's windy. We should probably pivot and talk about the audio real quick. We'll talk about my favorite AI feature of the ZV-E1, but quickly I want to show you something really cool about the audio. All right, so now you're hearing the audio from the onboard mic of the ZV-E1. It's windy. I've attached the windscreen on top of the onboard mic, and the audio actually sounds pretty decent for an onboard mic. It's crazy, right? This is really great if you just want to capture clean scratch audio, or you forgot to bring a shotgun mic for your camera. Like, you could definitely use the audio coming from the camera itself. The FX3 and most Sony cameras don't have the best onboard mics, but with the ZV-E1, it's surprisingly pretty decent. All right, now let's talk about my favorite feature of the ZV-E1, and that's auto framing. Basically, it's an AI feature where the camera will track and follow the subject, but also automatically zoom in and widen out by itself. It's pretty cool. So right now I'm just staying in the center. I'm gonna walk off to the side. The camera's gonna follow and track me. I'll walk off over here. The camera's gonna follow and track me. And if I go to the center, it's gonna still follow and track me, keep me in the center. And this is such a great feature, especially if you're filming by yourself. Like, you don't have to have someone behind the camera controlling all that. The ZV-E1 will do that for you with auto framing. Pretty nuts, pretty nuts. I see some pretty nuts over there. Walnuts that fell from the tree. All right, let's wrap this up.
And so, final thoughts, ZV-E1 is great for 95% of content creators, and the FX3 is more for professionals. I think the ZV-E1 is better suited for hybrid shooters, especially for creators that just make YouTube videos, Instagram Reels, and TikToks, where the FX3 is more catered towards professionals that shoot video production work. Things like music videos, corporate videos, documentaries. Like, if that sounds like you, the FX3 is your camera. And even though the FX3 is missing some cinema camera features like an internal ND or global shutter, it still has some features that a lot of professionals are gonna love, like quarter 20 threads around the camera, full HDMI port, a bigger grip. You can shoot at 1/48 of a second versus 1/50th from most Sony hybrid cameras. And the FX3 has that top handle with XLR inputs. And so, yeah, the FX3 is better catered towards professional video work, where the ZV-E1 is more for like stuff like this. But gotta say, I love the quarter 20 mount all around the FX3. It makes it really great and easy to attach different accessories for professional video production work. Where the ZV-E1, again, it's kind of a bare bones version of the FX3. You only have one SD card slot in the ZV-1, and also you only have one SD card slot on the ZV-1, and you're also only using a micro HDMI port, which isn't really good if you want to use this camera for professional work. Where the FX3, it has two SD card slots, a full HDMI port, and of course, a built-in fan to prevent the FX3 from overheating. Now, with the ZV-E1, I've never experienced any overheating at all, but I would imagine that if I was shooting in the middle of August in a place like Florida, I can see the ZV-E1 overheating, where the FX3, in full confidence, I know would not. But those are my thoughts of the Sony FX3 after about a year of using it. I think it's great. It's a fantastic camera. But let me know what you guys think of the FX3 or even the Sony ZV-E1. And if you have any questions about either one of these cameras, then let me know in the comments below. But I gotta go film some stuff with both these cameras and 3 other Sony cameras, because Sony tends to produce a camera like every single week these days, and so I'm just trying to keep up. All right, gotta go. Like, subscribe, all those good things down below. Sony, can you just chill out with all these cameras? Just chill out.